Hola, buenos días. Gracias a todos por venir. Una edición más del Oracle Security Day. Hoy va a ser un día muy interesante. Vamos a hablar de unos temas bastante interesantes, como habéis visto en la agenda. Daros las gracias a todos. Sé que hoy ha sido difícil llegar hasta aquí. Ha habido un montón de complicaciones en el tráfico. A mí me han pillado unos cuantos y además la niebla. Pero bueno, ya estamos aquí, que es lo importante, y vamos a comenzar. Una pequeña introducción. Sabemos que la seguridad es algo muy importante. Desde Oracle lo que decimos es que es parte de la transformación. Vivimos ahora en una era en la que la tecnología está dominando, está cambiando todo. Y bueno, pues lo que desde nuestro punto de vista supone es que la seguridad tiene un papel muy importante que decir. La transformación desde el punto de vista de Oracle está cambiando patrones de conducta, está impulsando la sociedad. No solo está cambiando los procesos de negocio, sino que está modificando nuestros comportamientos. En casa, domótica, las tablets, modelos educativos, toda la flexibilización de los procesos de negocio, nuevos roles, todo eso tiene un impacto en la seguridad. La seguridad, al final, lo que intenta de alguna manera es proteger la información, los activos más valiosos que tienen las empresas, pero también las personas. Controlar la identidad digital. De alguna manera, la seguridad lo que tiene es que dar confianza en los procesos de negocio. ¿Quién antes se atrevía a hacer una compra a través de Internet o a través del móvil? ¿Quién antes quería sacar dinero de los cajeros o cuando se va a un país operar con otros bancos? La seguridad lo que tiene de alguna manera que hacer es ayudar a crear una confianza en la tecnología. A partir de ahí es cuando evoluciona esa tecnología y realmente es cuando se está metiendo en estos procesos cotidianos, no solamente empresariales. Proteger, confianza, por supuesto, y además ayudarnos a reducir fraude, evitar robos de información, robos de dinero. Sin la seguridad no podría haber transformación digital. Sin esta transformación digital no habría esta evolución. Sin duda, dentro de unos años miraremos atrás y estaremos viendo lo que ha pasado ahora. Es una era en la que hay una transformación digital tremenda. Hoy vamos a tener a varios speakers. En primer lugar, vamos a tener a nuestro Senior VP de Product Management, Clayton Donley, quien nos va a hablar de toda la estrategia de Oracle en la identidad digital, en la que estamos creando un servicio de gestión de identidad en la nube de Oracle. Vamos a contar también con Román Ramírez. Él es miembro de la asociación RUTE, trabaja también en Ferrovial. Nos va a comentar algunas de las amenazas y algunas de las tendencias. Vamos a contar también con Graham Palmer. Él es nuestro responsable de definir la estrategia en la protección y en la gestión de la seguridad dentro de Oracle. Vamos a contar también con el Ministerio de Justicia. Vamos a contar también con Alessandro Valega, uno de nuestros desarrolladores de negocio, que nos va a hablar sobre el retorno en la inversión cuando hablamos en materia de seguridad. Vamos a contar con un panel de expertos de nuestros grandes partners, algunos de los partners con los que trabajamos, y por favor, hacer preguntas. Tenemos tweets, tendremos tarjetones en los que podréis escribir preguntas y, si no, levantar la mano. En primer lugar, me gustaría presentaros a Clayton Donley. Él va a hacer la primera presentación y va a hablar de nuestro servicio de gestión de identidades en la nube de Oracle. Muchas gracias. Clayton.
So my name is Clayton Donley. I run our identity and access management business at Oracle. Safe harbor. I'm going to talk about things that we're doing today. I'm talking about some of the things we're looking to do in the future. One of the things that we see as a trend, not just with identity management, but a trend in IT, is there's a number of transformations happening to businesses today, right? So if I look at this, we have the extended enterprise. What we mean by extended enterprise is IT used to be very concerned with employees. Now what we see is it's no longer just about employees, it's about your partners, it's about your customers, and all of these people are being brought into your IT systems and need to be managed. We're seeing much more that the line of business and that applications are determining how you're going to be doing IT. It's no longer IT telling the business how you're going to do and use our systems. It's now IT being told by the line of business that I have acquired technology, I'm going to do the business the way that I need to do it, and you need to support me. Social collaboration, we see particularly in all industries where you have consumers especially, that there's a lot of requirement to remove friction from being able to get new customers. So for example, we used to talk to banks about doing social login, social networking, and banks used to say, oh no, we're very secure. We don't want social login, Facebook, Twitter, those kinds of things. We're a very secure environment. And then we would talk to them later, and they would say, actually, the business has told us that one of the most important things we need to do is get new customers. And new customers are not my age. They're 18-year-old kids getting their first job, people opening bank accounts. What do they do? How do they find out about things? How do they register? It's not by walking into a branch. It's by going online and doing things. So social, very, very important. Mobile. Everybody has a mobile device, so I'm very mobile. It's really changing the way we interact with applications, where we do. We can be anywhere, any place, but it has a big impact on security as well. And then finally, cloud. When I talk about the business going out and making decisions, a lot of those decisions for the last few years especially have been to go out and, in fact, not even use IT to deliver some of these technologies, for CRM, HR, all kinds of things. So when people talk about, well, I'm worried about doing security in the cloud or for the cloud because I might be putting user data in the cloud, the first thing I mention is CRM. This is your customer data, right? Almost everybody has customer data in the cloud. It's the most popular thing to put in the cloud. We see a lot of HR, your bonus, how much you made. It seems to be just as important as maybe your username and password. So a lot of change in the organization that's impacting IT and security. So what is the things when I talk to company CIOs that they've been asked to do by their business? Really what we call the CIO Imperative has been three things. Cloud. A few years ago, I could talk to companies, ask them, are you doing something in the cloud? And maybe 50-50. Some companies would say, I'm investigating, or I'm looking to do, maybe I've got departments or certain parts of my company that are doing things in the cloud. But very few companies, especially ones that Oracle talks to, were, oh, I'm 100% the cloud, or I was born in the cloud. But there were still a lot of people said, oh, I will never go to the cloud, or we're doing everything in IT. And it's interesting because this conversation changes at different levels of the business. Last year, I was visiting an insurance company. And when I talked to the people doing security in this insurance company that are managing this project, I said, are you doing anything in the cloud? Their answer is, I'm not doing anything in the cloud. We don't feel that's very secure. 30 minutes later, we're having a conversation with the CIO. I said, I understand, you don't feel comfortable doing things in the cloud. He said, are you crazy? I have and I realize this is Oracle here, I have Salesforce, Workday. He listed all the cloud applications they have. And he said, why wouldn't I put other technology, including platform and security and other kinds of things in the cloud if I'm comfortable with those things? So security, everybody's thinking about it. The second thing is digital business. So as I mentioned earlier, what we're looking at for security now is very different than before. If you look at even Oracle, what we used to look at is what employees have access to. If I'm coming into e-business suite or other kinds of technology, what roles do I have? Things like that. We still care about that. Everybody cares about securing your employees. But now, for example, in retail, people want an experience where I can walk into the retail store, look at things. I can go online, on the website, I can be looking at things. I go use my mobile device, I can look at these same things, and while I'm going through, I'm the same person to you. I was talking to somebody that was a big customer of a European store chain I'm not going to mention, that had bought something like 14 shirts for a loyalty program from a company that they buy their shirts from. And so they get points when they shop online for these shirts. And of course, for shirts he already knew about, he could buy a lot. But when he goes into the store to redeem his points, they don't know who he is. So he's a loyal customer, he's just bought a lot of your product. You have a loyalty program, but because you don't connect the different channels of that loyalty program, you have not transformed properly because you didn't start with thinking about who the user is across these different channels. So digital business, very important, but enabling and knowing who you are for it is also important. The third thing is what's called bimodal IT. This is a Gartner phrase, and you can see they have a few statements about it. But the simple way to think about bimodal is really that you have some core business applications. Let's say if you're banking. That might be the actual transactions, the actual account movement, moving money around, doing trades. All those kinds of things are very core to your business. And they need to be very safe, very secure. You don't want a lot of change to that. But then you have other programs that are, maybe I'm trying to acquire young customers, or I'm trying to do better with customer retention or support, or other kinds of things where you want to be very innovative, and you want to move very quickly. So the processes that you had in place to do things very safe and secure were sometimes very highly regulated and sometimes very slow. You can't wait 3 years to figure out how you're going to acquire new customers if that's your process for making IT change. So the idea is bimodal IT means I can have two modes, a very safe mode for some projects that are core to my business, and a very fast mode that allows me to move quickly. The thing is you actually need security across all of this. You can't just be protecting your safe things. You do need to protect the things that are moving quickly. Because if you have acquired all this customer data in a very nice system that you move very fast on, and it's been breached, it's really bad. It's not good, right? So you need security across all of this. And if you look at it, to enable that security, all of these things really start by knowing who has access to what, who's doing what, how are they getting access to the system, who are these people across these different channels. So very, very important. So the IT role when it comes to identity management has really changed. So when you look at what I mentioned as the trends, it used to be about saying no. Really, that's what, if you ask people who are not IT security, what do you think of IT security people? They hate them. There are always the people who say no. They never say yes. They give you 50 reasons why things can't be done. They never give you reasons you can do things. So very, very much a security role. Very much about protecting and defending, what's already there. And very much about everything starts with no until we can figure out what you should get access to. And that's really changing, right? We say trust but verify, but really it becomes about being a business enabler. It doesn't become about not being secure, but it becomes about looking at the fact that different things have different risk. Not everything needs level 10 security or whatever you have in your firm. It becomes about being a facilitator, having that conversation with the business, being able to talk to the business about what's really happening there, and then being adaptive about it. So that if, for example, if you think about mobile login experience, I've had people who use systems that were designed by security people who are not very aware of what the business is trying to accomplish. And their first answer to how should my users log in as consumers is give them long passwords, upper lowercase, special characters, numbers, make it as complicated as possible, and then make them type it on this little tiny device where they're going to take, several minutes. And then let them last in that session for a very short time because they could lose their device. Devices are mobile. People who look at what the business is really trying to do understand that by adaptive, what you really want is you want a way to know, well, actually, the person's coming from the same device they always use. They're coming from the same location and networks they always use. How do I make that work better? And be adaptive about it. So it's about being flexible, but being secure. So going back and looking at the challenges of what we just talked about, because you have things like cloud, because you have things like mobile, people are not just coming into your network using VPNs or wires into your walls. They're coming in from everywhere. And the applications they're accessing are also no longer within your walls or within your data center. They're in the cloud, they're in all sorts of places. So what that leads to is a lot of exposure because you don't have the perimeter. You can't put a firewall around something that exists everywhere. The second thing is because now you have a lot of other systems. For example, you have cloud. If you've got a very good process for managing users in your environment, but then on the cloud, people are manually creating accounts and not deleting those accounts automatically when a user leaves the company, then you've just opened yourself up to exposure. You've lost control because we talked about the line of business picking up more things. If the line of business is running IT or shadow IT and doing things separately and outside of your security practices, that's a big problem. And it's not because you need control because you're trying to be the villain. You're trying to be bad IT security. It's because you're trying to make things better and more secure for them. But it's very hard because there's no longer that perimeter there. The second thing is I mentioned things like long passwords and going from a retail store and on-prem and having a different experience, or even online, and then even web to mobile and having different experiences. That creates a loss of opportunity. I was just with a company earlier this week where they were showing me their demonstration, in fact, of their new retail site, and they were very excited about it. And they wanted to show me the whole buying experience. But what I realized when they were trying to pull up the demo, they forgot the demo password because the demo password had to change every 30 days, and they have the typical IT process. So if you were a customer and you had forgotten your password for one retail site, a lot of times people just go to another one. A lot of these things are the same. So you've lost opportunity. The user experience across this channel, I talked about that a bit. Security just is not ready in some cases for consumer. And then finally, what we see is a lot of fragmentation. So people oftentimes have different solutions for cloud versus on-prem, different solutions for mobile versus web, different solutions for granting access versus controlling access. These things are not integrated. And anytime you have systems, you have many systems involved, you lose efficiency, it's harder to maintain, it reduces time to value, and creates issues with the ability to scale for the future. So at Oracle, really what we look at from an identity management perspective, especially as we start getting into cloud, is first of all, we're delivering a hybrid security for the cloud. The second thing is we're securing that digital transformation. And the third thing is we understand that because you've got all these different services and they live in these different places, that you can't be proprietary. Things need to be built on standards. You need to scale for the consumer. And there's no longer room for yesterday where people had proprietary ways of authenticating and securing their environments. In terms of how you will get to the cloud, on the left part of the slide, one of the things we've noted is that not every cloud is the same. Every time we talk to a customer, we have people, and we have customers of ours who absolutely were born in the cloud. Some of these people are Silicon Valley startup types that have never had an on-prem data center, 100% in the cloud, right? And then we have people who like the cloud, but they've got 50 years of on-prem IT. They're not going to suddenly shift everything to the cloud tomorrow. They may never shift everything to the cloud. They may want some of those core business systems under tighter control in their own data center with people that they know and they have their badges. But they're also looking at whether it's Oracle applications or Oracle Platform as a Service or third-party clouds and third-party applications. They're looking at these kinds of things and they want to take advantage of it where they can get faster business benefit. And then finally, we have people in very highly regulated industries or government agencies or otherwise that will never, ever move to a public cloud. I have 3-letter government agencies that everything's top secret. They can never move to the cloud. They need to manage everything themselves. So for those companies, they will continue to have some of their existing IT investment that they'll evolve. And then private cloud for us is different. This is where you've got more of it really is a cloud. It's a black box that you don't have to manage and maintain the same way you did for your old IT things, but it's on your prem and you manage it. And so we think, that as you go further and further into the cloud, you need less of this sort of traditional identity management and more of identity as a service. So to go with that, we look at all those different models we talked about. And for us, we have a very deep identity management offering. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here on it. It's one I know I've been here actually in Madrid talking about before. I'm sure there's several people who could tell you all about it. But this is a solution you can run at any data center, whether it's ours or yours. It has very deep functionality, very broad functionality. It can manage cloud identities. It can do those kinds of things, but it's going to run in your data center. And it's completely flexible to do whatever you need. Then we have a solution we call Identity Cloud Service, which we talked about a bit at Open World later last year, and we're getting ready to come out with, which is very different. This is built in the cloud for the cloud. It runs in our data center today. It's providing, as you can see, and we'll talk more about it, a turnkey solution for a number of different identity management requirements, but particularly tuned toward the cloud. Over time, we're also going to deliver this as part of something we call our Oracle Private Cloud Machine, I believe it's called OPCM, which is a way of taking these cloud applications and cloud services and running them in your data center. And then all of these, of course, are designed to work with your existing security investment. All of these are designed to scale at consumer scale. So as far as what we're doing to secure digital transformation, if you look at the requirements that really come out of that, in terms of map those to capabilities that need to be there and that we in fact deliver, the fact that you have a lot more digital relationships so that you see a lot more people who are not doing their own, they don't have their own warehouse. They don't have their own logistics or distribution. If you want to ship something to somebody, it used to be that you printed a shipping label and you dropped off your package. Now customers want to go to your site. They want to see the status of their shipment right in line. They don't want to have to go to a postal or Federal Express or UPS or other kind of things. So you need a way to integrate with APIs. You need a way to allow the user to access information and other services. And then, of course, coming into your systems, you need a way to enable people to come from things like social networks and other kinds of things. So that maps into the ability to do federated identities, which is single sign-on to and from different services. You need social login. so that you can log in from these social networks. And you need API security, and this is the one that's actually almost most important for this aspect, because what you find is that we have, in Silicon Valley, we always talk about something called API economy, all these different businesses that get enabled by APIs. But these services are all written by different developers. And if you ask anybody who's done security, are developers good at writing secure code, the answer is never. So, having a way to layer in security for APIs is critical if you're going to have secure digital relationships. User expect, I already mentioned, you need the multi-channel access for the new user expectations. If you want to bring in users very quickly, you need that. Self-service. If I'm changing my password, if I'm changing my profile, it needs to be very, very simple. And then when I say contextual and risk aware, I've got another slide. So this is when it comes to security, giving people a positive experience while maintaining security, context and risk awareness is critical. You need to be able to manage mobile, right? You're not going to use MDM to manage someone's mobile device when they're a customer, right? But you need to make sure your applications are secure. And then finally, we talk about doing this in the cloud. So a lot of the things I had on the previous slide about providing, controlling access in the cloud or to the cloud, being able to do this in a way that enables the business is going to be very important. And when we talk about that, it's giving the business control over that infrastructure. It's not it's getting away from IT having to know all the different roles and what they mean and all the different application endpoints. We need to be in a state where the business owner can help define which things that people are getting access to are sensitive or need to be secured more. So when we talk about contextual security and intelligent security, what we're really talking about is being able to do something that looks a bit like this. So you can see a user doing, in this case, 3 different transactions. You have Jay Smith coming in from the United States, 7 a.m., accessing HR from an iPhone. You have the same user also coming from the same location, maybe a little bit later in the day, using a different resource, using another device. Maybe I've seen this device. Maybe not. Maybe because I've not seen it before, I send a one-time PIN. Just the first time, just to make sure I know that this is the user of that device. The next time I see this device, I may never ask for that PIN again, because I've seen you come in from that device before. The next access, a few minutes later, coming in from China, accessing a resource I've seen before from another browser. It seems like a lot of the context doesn't match. Or maybe it seems very impossible for me to get from the United States to China in 2 minutes. So there's a lot of factors that you can take into account to raise the security now, perhaps deny access and an alert, try to catch things before they become an issue. So context is about using the information that's coming in and what people are trying to access to make better decisions about security. Because if you're not doing dynamic things based on context, you're doing static things based on rules. And for anybody who remembers what virus checking used to be about, where you used to have a static list of viruses and their signatures, every week you had to update it, and every week they'd be out of date when a new attack came out. That's the old way. That's static list, that's static policy. It's all about using context. What is the application trying to do? What are they trying to access? Who is it? So it's very much changed. It's about being able to do that, figure it out in real time, and take action. I mentioned open. One thing I want to be very clear is, some people, they look at Oracle and they think, oh, Oracle, proprietary, sneaky people. And what I want to make sure is you walk away from here knowing we have a huge investment in standards, very large. If you look just in identity management, we have one of the key authors of the OAuth spec, which is used for for authorization, if you think in the cloud across different partners. If you look at being able to add, remove, change users in the cloud, that's all happening using a standard called SCIM. If you know LDAP, SCIM is LDAP for the cloud. So we have the main editor of that specification with the IETF. SAML, one of the inventors of SAML, works on our team. So we have been very, very involved in the standards process. There's a number of standards we actively participate in, a number of others that we're tracking, looking at participation and so forth. But very important that you understand that we're not just watching standards and we'll get to it when we get to it. We are actively helping to make these standards better. If you look at, I talked a little bit about Identity Cloud Service. This is just a high-level view of how we see the world when it comes to cloud service. We understand you're still going to have, in many cases, enterprise applications. That might be our applications, it might be somebody else's applications. Those still need to be secured, they're still there. Then you have cloud applications from both us and a number of other third-party vendors that are very popular. These are being accessed by all sorts of people on all kinds of devices, using all sorts of logins. So where we see IDCS, or Identity Cloud Service, playing is helping to provide the identity fabric across that supports all of those. So being able to let anybody from anywhere, from any device, log in and get access in a secure way. It's not about just being able to manage cloud. One of the things that we see a lot of people doing is, how do I move maybe some of the control and the management of this to the cloud, but then give myself a way that I can still authenticate and authorize and manage some of my existing applications, even if they're on-prem or hosted. And that's very important because people will have these existing applications. Look today, how many people have mainframes? Mainframes have been dead for 30 years. And people still use them for business critical things. So if you look at that, you're going to have the same thing in a lot of these businesses. As far as just high level, the kinds of services we're providing, we really look at it very differently than with on-prem, where you have different kind of silos for different kinds of functionality. We're looking at a single offering that's very integrated. It's doing your single sign-on, which is kind of an access function. Making sure you can log into cloud properties, making sure that you can do the kind of OAuth type of transactions between companies. We're supporting OpenID Connect in our first version. ID administration, we used to think of this as almost like a governance capability, a way of managing. Single sign-on was runtime, it's the things that I do to get access to your application, login. Basically, what the business sees is a login screen. It looks really boring, but it's doing lots of things behind the scenes, right? ID administration is front and center with the business, because this is where I'm registering, adding profiles, changing my information, changing passwords. The business users and your customers, they see these pages all the time. This is the stuff they see. We used to look at this as part of something called governance, and we still do. But for the cloud, it needs to be integrated. These things go together. And then the storage of identities I talked about being cloud scale, being consumer scale. You need integrated storage for the things you're managing in the cloud. This isn't a separate thing. You don't want to have to go in and manage all these things separately. I'm doing ID administration of the users in my cloud directory, and then I'm authenticating and authorizing those users, all three. And then you need to be able to, across all of those functions, do analytics, be able to, both on a reporting basis, as well as adding that context and intelligence for my actual transactions. And that needs to be closed loop, and it needs to feed into each other. So knowing who has access to what, and knowing what they're accessing, and where they're accessing it from, and all of this information allows me to both give you better reports about exceptions and give you alerts so that you're not being spammed repeatedly about false alarms, but it also allows you to take action and change policies dynamically for different users. So we see a couple of different cases in the cloud. The first case really is cloud single sign-on. And if you look at the problem there, people have various cloud applications, right? And when you have multiple cloud applications, most cloud providers, they store their own users. It's not like you're on-prem where you might have 50 applications that are all using our directory, Active Directory, some common single sign-on system, and it's the same user everywhere. In these cloud services, everybody's managing their own user. You go to Oracle, you go to Salesforce, you go to Workday, you go to any of these people, and they've all got a user store. They've all got something they're managing. So it's very common for people to have different usernames, passwords, and other information for each of those services. And it's very difficult in some cases to move your existing accounts to the cloud and manage them securely. So today, people have things like provisioning systems and other kinds of things that manage users. And most of them are focused on managing users in Active Directory or other kinds of systems. You know, how do you take those users to the cloud? It's very difficult in some cases. And then managing all those different accounts, it's not just a poor user experience, it's costly, right? Because now I have to go out and I have to make sure that users are really not there after they leave the company. You know, I have to do all these kinds of things to be secure. It's very costly. So what you need is you need a solution, and our solution provides the ability to single sign-on between those different cloud services. You need a way to have a single credential. And by using federation and similar technology, we're able to give the user an experience where they log in one time with a single credential, and it works everywhere. And then you need an easy way to integrate with, whether it's on-prem AD or an identity management system. In our case, we use something called Oracle Identity Manager, and it needs to be very simple. So, you know, in our case, you know, there's like a 1 megabyte on-prem install that talks to your Active Directory, that knows how to talk to our cloud, and it's keeping those all in sync. So it's very, very simple, right? And that's important because not every customer we talk to is using identity management or particularly our identity management. And we don't want to make it a prerequisite that somebody install and deploy OIM, set up connectors, do all the kinds of things before they can get value in the cloud. So if you look at the customers looking to do this, they're reducing costs, they're improving the user experience, and at the same time, strengthening security. And if you look at how this looks, you know, I talked about how you've got an Active Directory bridge, you have your on-premise applications, you have your public cloud applications and cloud apps, and then we have Identity Cloud Service running in the cloud. Identity Cloud Service also is protecting Oracle's cloud applications. So if you're wondering about scale, today we're protecting about 35,000 customers and doing about over 30 million logins every day for our Oracle Cloud applications. And at least that was the number back at Open World when we announced those numbers. And we are protecting all those logins. So this is scaling to meet all those. And now what we're doing is we're making it so that you can use those same logins to connect and do single sign-on over there. And so you see there the AD bridge. It's synchronizing users out to the cloud. It's not synchronizing passwords. We're doing federation. We don't want to push passwords out to the cloud. We don't feel that's secure. People generally want to manage that. The second thing is we see a lot of people when they're moving applications to the cloud, it's a little different, right? We talked about using a third-party cloud, you know, such as whether it's Oracle or Salesforce or otherwise, where the identity store runs in that cloud. This is about, if you take an application that was running on-premise, let's say you've rewritten it. It's a business application for you, and you put this in the cloud. If it was an application that needs identity, that needs self-service, for example, if you're a consumer application and you're writing it for your business, you need identity, right? You need registration, single sign-on, login, you know, passwords, all those kinds of things. So, and you need that for your application. So you're not using existing identity management in the cloud. This is basically the issue of apps needing those accounts. And you're not doing what you did on-prem. You know, on-prem apps, they all talked LDAP. They all had ways of having these little agents that you put in front of them that could talk to single sign-on services. That was the way you did it on-prem. You're not doing that anymore, and that means you need a replacement. And then a lot of people have done this with manual processes, manual integration, you know, sticking users into databases and tables and things like that. So if you look at the solution, it really is to enable these applications to access identities and access them in the cloud where they live. And they need to communicate using standards. So we talked before, why do we have things like SCIM? I talked about adding, removing users, doing those kinds of operations. All of that needs to be done by standards. It's not happening over LDAP, it's happening over HTTP and REST. And then these applications, they need an identity fabric, and this is what we're providing. So what it does is it allows you to take the application, get the developer to focus only on the business side of the application. If you're writing a consumer portal, write the consumer portal. But then when it comes to how people log in and get access, you want to be able to use a service that can be instant for that. And that gives people a common and consistent user experience and security across any of these applications you may be building. And really, because it's built on open standards, the overall operating cost over time is going to be much lower. So tying this into our overall platform, and to kind of close this out, one of the things that we see is that this is one part of it, right? We talk about all the different things that go into and that need to be secured. You have Identity Cloud Service, which we're using to provide security for cloud applications, single sign-on to your cloud applications. And then we've also got governance, which is still very important because we have people that are going to the cloud today, they have existing identity management. And the answer isn't, you can't do anything until you adopt another service. We're adding things like cloud connectors. We're adding the ability to do access certification for cloud applications, for mobile applications, and those kinds of things. So we're extending identity governance to be able to manage the cloud, even if it's the on-prem solution. On the access management side, we talked a lot about federation already and how important it is in the cloud. But one of the things you need to be able to do is get to the cloud. So you're getting to the cloud from somewhere. And when you do that login, for most people, you're logging in locally, maybe it's Active Directory or one of our solutions like Oracle Access Manager. Being able to federate and do that very easily to our cloud, to third-party clouds, that's a big focus for us. We see a lot of people picking up, for example, Office 365. Everybody's using Office. I'm using Office right now, right? So with Microsoft moving to Office 365, I need a way of making sure my users get their accounts there. I'm tracking my licenses. I'm doing all those kinds of things, and that I can log in from on-prem, even if I'm not using anything else in the cloud. Access management is about doing that. It's about doing that not just on-prem, but extending it out to things like Office 365 and other kinds of core systems. And then if I look at directory services, we talked about Cloud Directory. What we still see is, for example, we're going to have somebody talking about IoT. And I just wanted to give one IoT example. I was with a large car manufacturer earlier this week. And they are, for the last 2 years, they have telematic systems. Telematic systems are like when you, inside your car, like how fast you're going, where's your car located, does it need service, all these kinds of things. It's got a lot of data. Is your car tire flat? It knows everything about your car. These things are all now talking over networks, usually cellular networks, to an operator, and then coming back to the manufacturer in some cases. And what they're doing is they're sharing all this information with the manufacturer about this. And they're not doing it to spy on you. They're doing it because they want to enable you. So if you're in Madrid and the parking's terrible and you've parked your car on a side street somewhere and you've walked somewhere and now you can't remember where you parked your car, I should be able to bring up my phone. I should be able to push a button, see where it's located, right? And I see people nodding their head because they can't find their car later. But the key point being that when I come back into the system, I need a way of letting those consumers log in and get access to their own data. And what this car manufacturer is doing is they're actually storing those users in our directory. So if you're buying this particular branded car, you bring up an app on your phone, and the first thing you do is you authenticate. That authentication hits us. We've actually got another one, a Japanese manufacturer that doesn't just use it for the user. They've got all the cars registered, because at the end of the day, the car network has to be secure. So, very critical. And, once again, directory, for a lot of these companies, very important to enabling that IoT experience, because you have to know not just who the user is, but who their device is, what device is theirs, all of those kinds of things. So, with that story, I think we're coming up on the time. So, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Clayton. I don't know if there is any question from the audience. I have one. So I see it's very, very interesting. But we see in the market, our customers, they are moving towards hybrid models.
Yes.
So some of them, they have their own cloud. They are also looking into different clouds. Some still are on-premise. So how do you think this cloud service could help just to create a bridge?
I'll use an example of, I've got a large pharmaceutical company based in Switzerland that is looking at our cloud service. They are actually already, they have a large on-premise environment. They don't plan to go away from that. But what they're doing is they've realized they have a lot of partners, maybe they're doctors, maybe they're hospitals. There's people that they need to give access to information. There's people that need to come in and give them information about maybe clinical trials they're running. There's all kinds of information that they need from these partners. And it can't be anonymous. It has to be a user. They have to know who this person is. But what they've decided is they don't want to manage those kinds of users on their on-prem environment, because that's already managing their employees. So what they're looking for IDCS for is they're looking to have a hybrid model where the on-prem environment is managing the existing users in the same way that it has been. And then that talks to IDCS. And then has the same information about the partners. So I can have applications that know about both, but then the partners can come in and do self-service, password reset, all the basic capabilities in a cloud. They don't have to set up anything. It can be done instantly. But that's one model where you can have, you need both, right? The other model, of course, is you're going to have applications in both on-prem and in the cloud. And what we see there is one of the biggest costs to identity management sometimes is bringing on board new applications. And what we see IDCS for a user that's doing both on-prem and the cloud is it can be the last connector you install. Every new application you onboard can be done in IDCS. And when you do it in IDCS, it's faster, easier, quicker, cheaper. So you can onboard and control those applications faster, but still have the value and retain the value of the on-prem services and systems.
Okay. Thank you, Clayton.
Yeah,
so thank you very much.